of the stories of the Haggadah that we read, and we actually know what lesson does it have for us. You see what happens is that it is an argument. This Mishnah, everybody knows, I'm sure, because we say it every year Pesach by night. Not only that, when you start learning Mishnayos, the first Mishnah that we usually learn is the Masechta Brachot, Brachos, right? Usually we do that. So this is a Mishnah that you're familiar with, guys. Please pay attention. Let's not play games. So what happens is there's an argument. Do we say Parsha Vayomer, the Parsha of Tzitzit, Kriyat Shema that we say? Do we say Vayomer at night or not? Chachamim, their opinion is that you don't say Parsha Vayomer at night. You don't pass them like that. Why not? Because Parsha of Shema, the first two, talks about that we believe in one God. There's obviously the mitzvot. The last Parsha talks about Tzitzit. The obligation of Tzitzit is not at night. Because the Torah says, read them. You have to see the tzitzis, and remember my mitzvot. At night you can't see, no light in the olden days. So therefore, if you have a four-cornered clothes and it's designated for sure for the night, you don't have to put on any tzitzis on that. However, Elazar ben Azarya said you got to say parasha of tzitzit too, because the last pasuk talks about Exodus from Egypt, right? Yetziat Mitzrayim, and he says you got to see Yetziat Mitzrayim even at night. But he says I had a problem. I couldn't prove it to the Chachamim. Chachamim said there's no obligation to see Yetziat Mitzrayim at night, but I said yes. And he said, you know what? That's the Mishnah. I'm like a 70-year-old man, but I wasn't able to prove it that you have to pass of Tzitzit at night until a young guy comes. What was the young guy's name? Atshaba Ben. Come on, guys. Ben Zoma. Until Ben Zoma comes, and Ben Zoma says, it says, you have to remember the day of the Exodus, all the days of your life, right? If the Torah would say days of your life, it means only once a day, during the day. Because it says, all the days of your life. What's the word all coming to include? Even at night, right? Now, guys, what is he wondering about? That it looked like a 70-year-old man, so I should have won? Why did he say I look like a 70-year-old man? I'm like a 70-year-old man. What? He was much younger. How old was he? Very good. What? No, 18. He was 18. But you know what? When he became the leader, his wife told him, come on. He's not a cover of the community. A young man is going to give it to Russia to 50-year-old people. So he goes to sleep that night and he's white. His hair or his beard becomes white. 18 rows of white hair. So really, he was only 18 years old. He looked like a 7-year-old man. What is his wonder? I should have won. I'm wondering. I look like a 7-year-old man. How come I don't have that much knowledge to win the rabbis? Because you're 18-year-old. What do you expect? These people are older than you, so you can't prove anything. You get the question? He doesn't say, well, I was a wise man. I learned so much. I should have been able to prove it. I look like a 7-year-old guy. So you look like one, but you're not 70. So what's your wonder why I didn't win the Chachamim? So actually, this question is asked by Tosfot Yom Tov. The Tiferet Yisrael asks it. There's actually one answer that they bring from the Arizal, and that's the concept of the Gilgul reincarnation. The Arizal says, the Chiddush of the Arizal, that really Rabbi Elazar ben Azarya was a Gilgul of Shmuel Hanavi. How many years did Shmuel Hanavi live? Allah. Right, exactly. How many years? No. Well, you got to get to 70. He's 18 years old. Let's add it. He died at 52. So take his 52 years plus the 18 years that Rabbi Elazar ben Azarya has. Everybody who's a graduate of yeshiva knows math very well. 70. So really, spiritually, as far as knowledge of Torah goes, he was really 70 years old. And like the Tosfot Yom Tov says, that's why the miracle happened. And he looked like a 7-year-old man. Because really, he was 70 years old in knowledge of Torah. And that actually changed his appearance in his body also. Is that clear, people? Yes. So come to the Arizal, he had 52 years of experience and knowledge of Torah from Shmuel Hanavi. And now he's only 18, he's 70 years old. Now this is very nice, people. But what do you learn from this? What can we possibly learn from this story that he was a Gilgul and he was 7 years old? So see what happens is, there's actually, this is based on, one of the things that the Ben Ish Chai says, and also the Rebbe speaks about it. Guys, when we say Gidui, we say Ashamnu, Bagadnu, right? Gazamnu, we stole. Why do I say we stole? If I stole, I should say Gazalti, I stole. Why did I put all the Jews in my sin? It's not Lashon Hara. Because I know we also, I don't have the right time to do it. So I saw.
Are we all reincarnation for?
Oh, so what happens is very good answer. Ben Ishai, very beautiful. But before I said the Ben Ishai's answer, the Arizal gives an answer. He says, yeah, amongst Jews, there's somebody that sinned. But since all of us are one big, gigantic spiritual body, right? Each one is like a small limb spiritually. If somebody, let's say, has an ingrown toenail, even though it's in his foot, but that weakens the entire body. You can't even concentrate to learn. Because if there's a disease in one part of the body, it brings a weakness to the entire body. So if one Jew steals, because we're all connected, so that impurity is for everybody. That's what the Arizal answers. But Finish says a different answer. Maybe I stole in my previous life. I don't know who I was. So look at the power when you say Ashamnu Bagatnu. You're not only bringing forgiveness for yourself, for ourselves. You're actually fixing our previous guilt. That's how powerful video is. According to the Ben Ish Chai. When I learned it a couple of years ago, I was amazed. Wow, I didn't know. I had no idea you have so much power. You guys can fix it. See how much is dependent on your shoulders? God really trusts us that we can fix our previous guilt too. So going back, sometimes we have a difficulty to understand some parts of the Torah. Gemara is very difficult, or I can't do a certain mitzvah. If somebody really asks God to help him, so sometimes your previous Gilgul could come within you and help you out. That's what we learn from the story of Rabbi Elazar and Azarya. But actually, because he deserved it, he studied Torah very hard. So God gave him the merit that Shmuel's neshama came within him, and actually gave him the experience and knowledge of 70 years. So if you really want to do a mitzvah and we have a difficulty we can't, many times our previous Gilgul will come and help us. Now let's ask a question backward. What if my previous Gilgul was a wicked man? So I'm going to get all these evil on me, I'm going to have a double problem, So here the Mefarshim explain all the evil that the previous lives did. Once they go through Gehenna or they go through certain purification, that doesn't exist anymore. Once the guy goes out of this world and he gets purified, he doesn't come back. From previous Gilgulim, he's coming to test me. He said, I'm almost finished. I'm just kidding. I only go back many years. I was actually at this Brit Milah, but then he goes 10 times more than I do. So at any rate, when it comes to Gilgulim, there is only the good from the previous generations helps us. All the wrong that it did gets cleared up. With this, you have an answer for another question. They always ask this. If people like the Chafetz Chaim, people let's say like the older Rabbeim, all the tzaddikim, they couldn't bring Mashiach in previous generation. Us little people could bring Mashiach in this generation. Really, they couldn't do it. You're not greater than them. So the answer is, when it comes to do mitzvah, their good deeds still exist. It's not because Chafetz Chaim or let's say Lubavitcher or Ben Ish Chai, because they passed away, so all the good that they did is gone. We're left with our own power. No, their good is here. Any mitzvah that we do is added to them. So the parable that they use, by Hasidic philosophy, is that if you have a giant that he could see very far, and then he puts a midget on top of his head, who can see further? Midget. A midget, exactly. Because even though it's a midget, but he's standing on the shoulders, on the head of the giant. So you can see further. That's why we guys have the power to bring Mashiach. We can do it because we have all the good deeds of the previous generation. We're standing on the shoulders, and together with that mitzvah, we can definitely bring Mashiach very soon. Thank you for listening, people.